Nashville Predators rebound with a big win over the Philadelphia Flyers, which included 2 goals from Phil Tomasino. Is TOMO Time officially back? And speaking of back, Matt Duchene at Bridgestone Arena tomorrow night. What reception is he going to get? We'll debate it on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making the Locked On Predators podcast your first listen of the day. Every single day, we are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, want to start out with a special hello to our loyal Locked On Pred heads out there, the everydayers who tune into every single show. We love you guys and we appreciate the support you give us week in and week out. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer at Penalty Box Radio, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer at the Hockey News.
Today's episode also brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. All right, Ann. The Preds are back.
Come on.
For one game.
We take it. It's a game at a time, and it's a win.
Yeah, Nashville Predators beat the Philadelphia Flyers 4-2 on the road last night, which included another big game from an unsung hero from the Nashville Predators, Phil Tomasino. Do we think he's back? Is Phil Tomasino finally, I don't know, gripping the bull by the horns or something?
Riding no hitches in his giddy up.
Yeah, he's anyway. Is Phil Tomasino starting to play more consistent? Controversial moment with Yakov Trenin that saw him ejected. We'll get to that in a second. Plus, tomorrow the Stars come to Bridgestone Arena. Guess who plays for the Stars, Ann?
I'm going to go out on a limb and guess Scott Wedgwood.
You are correct, but also Matt Duchene. So it will be Matt Duchene's first game back in Bridgestone since the somewhat hotly debated exit from Smashville earlier this year. What kind of reception will he get when he comes back? All of those are topics we're going to tackle on today's Locked On Predators podcast. But let's start with the game last night, and Predators beat the Philadelphia Flyers 4-2. In what could probably be called a good all-around performance. Flyers went up 1-0 early thanks to the weirdest goal you will see in the NHL this year.
So crazy.
Morgan Frost gets the goal exactly like he drew up. I think it was Alexander Carrier who tried to cycle the puck around the net, winds up bouncing off Morgan Frost's foot, goes over the front of the net, bounces off UC Saros and in. If you haven't seen the replay or you missed the game last night, you're going to have to check that out on Twitter. But here come the Preds. Cole Smith gets a shorthanded goal. Flyers got one back to go up 2-1, but then Phil Tomasino with a beautiful backhand play ties it up at 2. Tomasino again with just under 5 minutes left in the game. A beautiful shot gives the Preds the lead, and then Gustav Nyquist right at the end hits it home with the empty net. 4-2 Predators win. And your one word to describe last night's game.
My one word is fragile, which has to do with A Christmas Story, which is on 24/7 on TBS over Christmas Eve, which is a whole nother podcast for another day, how I feel about that. But anyway, in A Christmas Story, the father he wins something and he gets a package and it says fragile, but he says it's fragile. And I think he says, oh, it's French or Italian. I can't remember which one.
It must be Italian.
It must be Italian.
As somebody who sees this 24 hours straight for every Christmas, I can quote that to you.
I avoid it now. So I blocked some of it out because it's a little too overexposed. But anyway, Fragile. And the dad is so delighted with this. It's a leg lamp, and it's a whole thing. It's
a major award, Anne.
It's a major award, and the dad is beside himself over it. And so for me, because this was the dad's trip, because the dads were there to see this, I just went with the holiday themed. This is Fragile. It's Italian. Something like that. Is that what he says? I think it's Italian.
Must be Italian.
Must be Italian. Because this win was so delightful to the dads and, quite frankly, to the rest of us, you know. And also, I am not at all offended or opposed to the leg lamp. I think it's kind of cool.
I thought you were going to go because Phil Tomasino is Italian.
Is he Italian?
Tomasino. What was his dad is Gino?
Marco. Isn't he Marco?
Marco? I don't know. What was his dad's name? They said it last night.
Mister.
Yeah. Phil's Senior.
Phil Senior. There you go. But yeah. So yeah, I just went with that because look, the dads were delighted. I think there were a lot of people at Wells Fargo Arena that were horrified by the unboxing of that game, but the dads, they were delighted.
Yeah, the best part of the game was afterwards, where the Preds like did the center ice salute and went over to like the dad's box and lifted the sticks and kind of gave the salute. So yeah, fun trip all around. Colton Sisson's dad mustache, by the way, MVP of the game.
Can we talk about how badly I want us to get Mr. Sissons on Locked On Predators? Because I'm pretty sure he's a sensation.
I have seen Debbie Sissons like some tweets of ours before, so maybe we can get, maybe that's a connection we can milk.
Oh, come on, Debbie.
Yeah, my one word is horse, because Anne, what do we do when we fall off the horse?
We get back on the horse. Well, we say back on the horse, and then we get back on the horse.
Yeah, we curse a little bit and then get back on the horse. But yesterday's podcast was our cursing. And last night's game was the Preds getting back on the horse. Yeah. To me, and we kind of hinted at this a little bit when we did our preview yesterday, last night's game against the Flyers may be more important than I think the game against the Canucks, because, you know, the Canucks, you're feeling high, you got punched in the mouth, you fell off the horse. Yeah. You broke your arm or whatever happens when you fall off the horses. I'm trying not to go like the Gone with the Wind, super dark.
Yeah, no, just you get banged up.
Banged up. Yeah. So it was an opportunity, I think, to see, okay, you got hit in the mouth. How are you going to respond? You had an embarrassing game. Your coach called out your effort over the past few games. What's the response going to be? And at the beginning, that first period, it looked a little bit hit or miss. Like that goal clearly was nobody on the Predators' fault.
No.
I'd say that. That was one of the flukiest goals I've ever seen. But at the same time, it was also like, okay, there's, you know, a couple of key mistakes there, you know, a couple of turnovers. Flyers kind of had all the momentum, and you're thinking, uh-oh, like Preds are falling back down to earth. And then for the second period on, I thought this was the Preds' game to lose.
Yes.
And, you know, they dominated possession. They had really good sustained pressure in Philadelphia's zone. You know, chance after chance. I thought the Flyers had some good chances the other way, but as a whole, I thought the Predators kind of controlled the momentum and flow of the game. UC Saros, certainly a big reason for that, made a couple of incredible saves, including a really good breakaway stop on Cam Atkinson. But, you know, so UC Saros certainly deserves some kudos for this game as well. But it was a very well-rounded game for the Nashville Predators for the second half on. And then, of course, you get rewarded with a win. And I think after last night, if you're the Nashville Predators in the locker room, you're looking at this and probably saying this is maybe our best all-around game in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's crucial going into the break and going into a big Central Division showdown tomorrow. This was the Preds getting back on the horse with a big-time all-around performance.
Yeah. And I think it's really important that we talk about that first goal that really was just, honestly, y'all, if you have not seen it, you have got to find this goal. I have rewatched. I still can't figure out how it happened, but it happened.
I'm not gonna lie. It was a little bit fun.
Oh, it was like really and truly,
yeah.
You had to appreciate it just from a physics perspective. But the Predators were going into this game, and like you said, the Canucks game was a punch in the mouth. And UC Saros got pulled in the Canucks game. He gets the start in Philadelphia, and within the first, I think it was a minute 08 or something, is when this fluke goal happened. You have Saros getting scored on in a way that had just absolutely nothing to do with him. It just happened.
Yeah.
But there's a moment when you see that first weird goal happen that you say, what's this going to do to the team? Like, where is their confidence? How steady is their kind of mental foundation after getting punched in the mouth by the Canucks? How is Saros going to respond to a weird early fluke goal after getting pulled against the Canucks? Like, where mentally is his reset? And that for me was so huge to see the Predators continue to just play 60 minutes of good hockey, because I thought that was such an early smack, that weird goal for Saros individually, but for the team as a whole. And it was one of those things where I could see in previous seasons where maybe the team would kind of fold a bit, and they just didn't. So kudos to them, for playing the 60 minutes after that minute, I think a minute 08, minute 18 something goal. That was whack, but they did a good job.
The result last night was great. How they got it, I think, is even more important for this.
Very true.
A couple of standouts from this game. We'll talk about Phil Tomasino's performance, 2 goals last night. Plus, what did we think of the Yakov Trenin hit that wound up getting an ejection? Some big thoughts on that. Plus, Matt Duchene back in Bridgestone Arena tomorrow afternoon. What reception is he going to get? We'll talk about that in just 1 second. But first, want to mention today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. New NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. Austin Matthews could lead the NHL in goals again. The Vegas Golden Knights could hoist, they'll lift the Stanley Cup for the second year in a row. And you can win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Philip Forsberg, Ryan O'Reilly, Matt Duchene, Jason Robertson, and more will record more or less than their Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Preds fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. Again, that is code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. All right, and we're talking about the Preds' 4-2 win over the Philadelphia Flyers last night. A good win over a good team in the Eastern Conference. And story of the game last night, Phil Tomasino gets the game-tying goal with a beautiful little backhand play, gets the game-winning goal with a absolutely beautiful shot just up into the top corner of the net. Safe to say the best game we've seen Phil Tomasino play in quite some time?
I think definitely it is. It's his first career multi-goal game, which I think is wonderful. But I just think, like you said, I think overall, not just how important the offense was that he generated and finished on, but again, I think overall, and let's remember that the Nashville Predators towards the end of this game, they were in a very hairy situation when it comes to their forwards, because this was a game where Andrew Brunette opted to start 11 forwards and 7 defensemen. And then you are down Yakov Trenin. And so you've got 10 forwards rotating on and off the ice. And, I was so impressed with how well the Predators managed a situation that was quite hairy. I think could have been really an easy excuse for why they couldn't win the game. And they just didn't. Phil Tomasino, I thought, was fantastic. The shots that he had. And, Tomasino recently got that breakaway goal, his first goal of the season. I think it was his first goal of the season just a couple games ago.
So it was second.
Yeah. It was so good to see him get that 2-on-1 chance. He and Tommy Novak. And Tomasino buried that. That's something that I think has kind of bothered him, that he's not been finishing on some of those chances. So it was great to see that. And that shot on the game-winning goal with like 4 minutes left, Phil Tomasino, wow. I mean, that was just an absolute beautiful shot. After the game, he said he was surprised because he heard Yossi calling for the puck and he thought Sissons was going to pass it to Yossi. Ended up on his tape, but he knew exactly what to do with it and where to put it. So I was so excited to see this performance from Tomasino because let's face it, this has not been an easy season necessarily for Tomasino, but he's doing the work, y'all. He's doing the work.
And we were at a point where we were a little worried about Tomasino because he was just so far off the pace. And look, I know he didn't start last year in the NHL, but when he came back towards the end and, stayed with the team at the end of the season, he did better in that short stint than he's been doing this year. So I think a lot of people were like, is it time to worry about what Phil Tomasino's future in Nashville is going to be? But you mentioned, his latest healthy scratch came last week, maybe a little over a week ago, was kind of back in the doghouse since then. And in the 4 games since, 4 points, 3 goals, and more importantly, and a +5.
Huge.
And I know we talk about plus minus, not telling the whole story, but that still says that he's on the ice for more goals and creating more chances than he is when, the other team is. And I think also a big takeaway is these last 2 games he's played, 15-31 in ice time and 15-11 in ice time, both highs for the season. So you're seeing Andrew Brunette reward his play a little bit more. And I think that's a big thing is that not only is Phil Tomasino's confidence growing, not only is he starting to play a little bit better, but the Preds are noticing it and starting to reward him with a little bit more responsibility as well.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the Yakov Trenin play.
Let's talk about this.
So Yakov Trenin hit from behind on Morgan Frost. Morgan Frost goes headfirst into the boards. Originally called 2 minutes for
hit to the head.
It was 2 minutes for hit to the head.
Illegal hit to the head, yes.
They then change it to 5 minutes for boarding.
I think it was. Is it boarding or roughing?
Let me see what I'm trying to find the penalty summary. So they changed it to boarding.
They changed it to boarding, yeah.
And then gave that a 5-minute major, had a very long review, and then upheld the 5-minute major, slapped an ejection on top of that. So I certainly have thoughts on how the whole thing played out, but Ann, I'll give you first crack at what you thought of this entire play and the sequence that followed.
Yeah, so I understand in general that the NHL, they're trying to get certain kinds of hits out of the game. And I'm mad props for that. And I understand that. And I do think in a lot of ways, you err on the side of overcalling something than undercalling it. My confusion comes in with the fact that it was called and announced and kind of recorded as a 2-minute illegal hit to the head, minor penalty. And then it was changed to a major penalty, which I was like, isn't the protocol that you call it a major and then you have to call it a major to begin with, and then you review it and then you figure out, yes, it is a major, it is a game misconduct, or no, it's not, it's a minor. So I feel like protocol wise, did we really follow what we were supposed to do? Because it was called, it was announced, it was published, it was recorded as a 2-minute minor illegal hit to the head. So protocol wise, I have questions, y'all. What you doing? Follow the order of operations. It's not just for math. My other thing is if you have to, and again, all about getting these hits, whether they're intentional or not, get them out of hockey. But if you have to take it was probably 6-minute review, 5-minute review. I don't know.
It was quite some time.
If you have to take that long to review a play and you are going literally frame by frame by frame over and over to determine if this is a game misconduct ejection play, I feel like it's not. And I don't if that's where they landed, that's where they landed. But I feel like we have seen hits that in the moment, in the second, by the eye test, without replay in this league, you can look at a play and go, yeah, that's an illegal hit. That's a game misconduct. That's an ejection. This was literally like they were studying for the SATs.
Yeah.
And that bothers me.
Well, let me jump in here because let's be honest, in terms of hits you want to get out of the NHL, I'll go on record and say, yes, what Yakov Trenin did was worthy of a 5-minute major. It was worthy of ejection. I know some Preds people are going to disagree with that. I'm going to go ahead and say now, absolutely, 100%
you want to get a hit like that.
An ejectable hit, something that Yakov Trenin should probably get some calls from the NHL about. Mm-hmm. Here's, again, where the frustration comes in is the inconsistency. Remember when Karl Kaprizov hit Jeremy or Alexander Carrier in the head? Alexander Carrier missed time, and Kaprizov got a 2-minute penalty.
Let's go.
And then Andrew Burnett was told that, because we called it a 2-minute penalty, we can't go back and change it and review it as a major.
Take it home.
What happened last night? It was called a 2-minute penalty. Refs got together, changed it to a 5. Why couldn't, so why is this why are you able to get together and change this, but you're not able to get together and change that last hit? The other thing, that's the same hit that Nick Cousins laid on Eric Gudbranson that didn't get called.
Come on.
He got called for a boarding, and that's what led to Eric Gudbranson trying to murder Nick Cousins.
Yeah.
So it's just like, if that was clearly a dangerous hit, this was clearly a dangerous hit. Like, how are you determining this?
Yes.
What is the threshold? Is it can't just be, we'll look at it and, we'll be able to tell, because these are the same plays.
Right.
These are the same plays. And I think that's the biggest frustration to me is just it's another sign of inconsistency around the league. And it just seems like this is like the third time in a row in which those inconsistencies seem to go against the Preds. And that's where my frustration comes in.
Yes. I'm with you. I don't necessarily have a problem with Yakov Trenin being ejected from the game. I don't think it was a hit with intent or anything like that. But when you look at that Nick Cousins hit, you don't need replay to look at that hit and go, that's a hit we don't want in hockey.
Yeah. Be consistent. Just be consistent. And I think you'll have a lot. Hits like this will become less controversial and more of, that's a bad hit.
That's a bad hit.
Yeah. Nashville Predators get the win over the Philadelphia Flyers 4-2, a good Preds win. The next game on the schedule is against the Dallas Stars, and Matt Duchene coming back to Bridgestone Arena. We'll talk about what reception we think he's going to get from the crowd and whether we still think letting him go was the right move for the Nashville Predators. Coming up in just 1 second.
First, I want to let you know this episode is brought to you by our great friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, that's what brings home the winning trophy in sports, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you are focused on getting speed, power, or style in your car, eBay Motors has got you covered. They have over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, and you're going to always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers.
All right, and tomorrow, the Nashville Predators host the Dallas Stars at Bridgestone Arena, a 1:00 puck drop. Will be my first game back in Nashville for the season. So, yes, please win, Nashville Predators. But it will also be the home return of Matt Duchene, his first game against his former team. And What are we expecting when Matt Duchene hits the ice against Nashville?
I really have been pleasantly surprised with the reception that John Hines got. I was super worried about that one.
I was too, yeah.
I'm just keeping it real. I didn't know. But I hope that the crowd will be appreciative to Matt Duchene. This is what's real. Matt Duchene loves Nashville. He loved playing for the Nashville Predators. He holds a franchise single season goal scoring record for the Nashville Predators. You can't say that he didn't contribute anything while he was here. There's lots of other discussions you can have about his time as a Predator. But so I hope that it will be a warm reception for Matt Duchene. What do you think?
I'm with you. I think there's going to be maybe a little bit of scattered boos here or there, just because it seems like Duchene was more scapegoated than maybe a Ryan Johansson, and maybe that's just because Ryan Johansson had 2017 and all of that. I'm with you. I thought like John Hines would get more boos. I thought Ryan Johansson would get a little bit of more boos. So I'm going on. I think Matt Duchene gets a good reception. There's still a lot of people here that really like Matt Duchene. Still a lot of people not really happy he was let go from the Predators and having a good year. So I'm going to believe that he has a good reception from the home crowd. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe there's some scattered booing. Not a lot. Not like Ryan Suter or anything like that. But
no.
Maybe a couple from the peanut gallery.
Yeah. I also will say, I don't think this will be as enthusiastic a welcome back as Matthias Ekholm or Tanner Jeannot.
No.
Those were, just people were vomiting love on them. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the exact response to Matt Duchene coming back, because there's just a lot to unpack with Matt Duchene's time in Nashville. So, but I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping that people will appreciate what he did while he was here.
Yeah, I hope so too. And let's look back at this kind of Matt Duchene and the exit. Like, obviously good tenure in Nashville, the 43 goal season, 86 points a couple years ago. Still, good scoring. I had some bad years here too. What do you think about his exit in Smashville? Because a lot of people have pointed out he's having a really good year in Dallas this year. A lot of people have pointed out financially kind of hurts the Predators.
Yeah.
For a couple of years. I mean, they're basically paying him almost $7 million to score goals for a Central Division rival next year.
Yeah.
Is it still, I don't even want to say, do you still think it's a good move or a bad move? It's just, what do you think looking back at that exit now?
This is one of those situations that I think is really complicated, and I'm not sure time is going to make it any clearer, regardless of how Duchene finishes with the Dallas Stars or not, because it's so complicated. And I think that Matt Duchene was probably bought out, not because of disappointment in on-ice performance. And I don't want to overstate anything about him in the locker room either, but I think that Barry Trotz wanted fresh wind. I think he wanted fresh leadership. And I think when you have a player like Matt Duchene, and this is not a criticism of him, but I think when you have a player like Matt Duchene, he is maybe not somebody who feels like he is in a position to defer to new leadership. Do you know what I'm saying? And so sure. I'm trying to say it in a way that doesn't come off as a criticism of him. I think it was
so Barry Trotz, very, very soon after Matt Duchene left, dropped his first, I don't want you to come here to retire. I want you to come here and win. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people were like, okay, like that's definitely about Matt Duchene and or Ryan Johansson.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do think it probably was about Matt Duchene. It just being honest, I do think that it probably was. And Matt Duchene's a great hockey player. I think he was, for the most part, pretty well liked in the locker room. I will tell you that the thing that we hear consistently when it comes to talking about locker room culture is it's one locker room. There's no divisiveness. There's no cliques. Not saying that Matt Duchene was a part of creating any environment otherwise, but I do think you needed a fresh wind in there. And I love Matt Duchene. I mean, I fought with my husband over Matt Duchene more than anything else in our whole entire marriage. But sometimes people need to be somewhere else and flourish. And I think that's okay. And does it suck that the Predators are, could be paying him to come in and beat them on their home ice? Yes. Yeah. I also think Matt Duchene didn't do himself any favors, and people took a lot of offense to his comments about, he wants the opportunity to win. He hasn't been too many places in his career where he has had the opportunity to win.
He hasn't.
He hasn't. And I think people took great offense to that when I'm like, no, that's just a factual statement. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I just think he was a little bit of a divisive player, just a little bit of a divisive player among the fan base. So I'm okay with this move. I love him. Yeah. And I know he's having a great career, a great season with the Dallas Stars, but bless you on your journey, Matt.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like you look at the dead cap and you're basically paying him until the year 2029 to not play for you. And especially the last year of his contract, he only had 3 seasons left at I believe it was 3 seasons left at $8 million. And is that any worse for your long-term picture than paying him $6.5 million in 2026 to play for another team? I think it's the salary thing. I think it's
not like the Predators don't still have room. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
they're paying $4 million of Ryan Johansson's salary. They're paying a portion of Matthias Ekholm's salary. They're paying Kyle Turris until 2028. So it's not quite as bad as like Zach Parise and Ryan Suter in Minnesota, but it might be enough where you're sort of get handcuffed into not being able to build as fast or as slow as you want. And it feels like that may be a situation what the Preds may have to deal with in 3 years when they have about $11 million in dead cap. So, I mean, from that standpoint, like maybe it would have been worthwhile just to kind of see if you could get something else out of Matt Duchene for at least 1 more. I know he has a no trade clause and that would have come into play, but interesting. So we'll see what kind of reaction Matt Duchene gets tomorrow when the Dallas Stars come to town. This is our last show until after Christmas. We will be off this Monday. We will be off on the 26th, the 27th. We'll talk a little bit about the Preds game against the Hurricanes and look back at the top stories of 2023, including some player awards. So stay tuned for that. That's going to do it us on today's Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Well, have a good holidays, everybody, and we will see you on the other side of Christmas.